The culture of a human reflected in an ape. It's the stuff of science fiction, but perhaps creating a Planet of the Apes type of being is not as far-fetched as it sounds. This scientist has applied for a patent on a creature that would be part human and part chimpanzee. A bizarre life form that no one has made before, but which might prove useful for medical experiments in the future. His application was turned down, but Stuart Newman is celebrating. The New York Medical College biology professor never intended to make the human-chimp hybrids. He applied for the patent so he could challenge United States laws, which allow patents on living beings.
We objected, as many people do, to the privatization of the whole living world, and we were actually interested in seeing whether they would allow a patent that was for a partly human organism, and if they did, then it would raise an alert throughout society that this was kind of getting too close to home.
The Patent Office ruled that his invention was too human to be patentable. Undaunted, Professor Newman has filed an appeal, which he hopes will force a rethink on the policy of allowing patents on living beings.
I feel rather that it's important for working scientists to be the ones who also warn about the consequences of taking the science too far. We need rules, regulations, and a public consciousness about it.
It all serves to raise deep moral and religious dilemmas. Perhaps it raises the biggest question of them all.
I asked a judge this question. I said, how many human genes would you have to give a monkey in order for that monkey to be able to win human rights in a court of law? He said, if this monkey is more than 50% human genetically, I would prosecute it for murder. I said, did you know that the monkey is already 98% human because we're close cousins? In that case, he said, if you put the right 1.1% of the human genes into a monkey, that monkey will be more human than animal in a court of law.
Oliver's friends believe there is something about him that's eerily human.
There's somebody in there. There's someone in there with a heart, a soul, who feels. You can see it through his eyes. You can feel it when you're in his presence. And that's the truth. I've always felt it, and everyone that has ever come in contact with him has the same exact feeling. Something is in there, more than an animal.
If Oliver did turn out to be more than just an animal, it raises many questions with no easy answers.
What would you do with the hybrid? Would the hybrid be maintained in a cage? Would the hybrid be given human rights? What are the implications that this would have for how we treat chimpanzees? Can we justify continuing to do research on chimpanzees if, in fact, humans and chimpanzees can interbreed? So it has profound moral, ethical, social, religious, political implications for how we think about ourselves in relationship to other species.
I think the issue of who Oliver is, and particularly in relationship to half human, half ape, and those issues, raises the basic, fundamental question that we all have of who are we. Anything that raises that question will be fascinating to us.
Michael Miller donated Oliver to a wild animal park in California. When that went out of business, Oliver bounced from trainer to trainer and disappeared. There were rumours that he was in a circus. Others thought he'd been sold off for medical research and was probably dead. But the man who tried to buy Oliver and failed had never forgotten him.
I lost total track of him. It wasn't until many years later, like 20 years later, that I came into some money, and the first thought on my mind was, I'm going to find Oliver.
But Oliver had been missing for a very long time, and the trail had gone cold. Then, just when he was about to give up, Vincent got a break.
I called everyone I knew and everyone I didn't know. And I did finally track him down. He was only 2.5 hours away from where I was living at the time.
What Vincent discovered shocked him. Oliver had ended up in a research laboratory in Pennsylvania. There he'd languished in a 5-foot by 7-foot cage for 9 long years.
I had found him at the Buckshire Institute. They have a lot of chimpanzees, and they're used for experiments. And I was totally opposed to this, so I called a friend of mine in San Antonio, Texas.
Wally Sweat runs an animal sanctuary called Primarily Primates, and he offered to help. Fortunately, Oliver had never been used in any experiments. And in 1996, the Buckshire Corporation agreed to hand over Oliver and 11 other chimpanzees to Wally. After 9 years in a tiny cage, Oliver might be expected to come crawling in on all fours, but dramatically he walked in on 2 legs.
Hi, Ollie. Wow, you stand up. Look at you.
Wally Sweat had heard stories about an ape that walked on 2 legs. As he looked at the creature standing upright in front of him, it was obvious this was the same legendary animal.
I noticed that his head was smaller than other chimpanzees, his ears sat higher on the head and more pointed, and his nose more flat than a normal chimpanzee. So at that point, when he, especially when he started to walk upright, I realized that this was the very same mystery ape that no one had been able to contact.
While some people believe he's half human, half chimp, others think he's just a clever chimp who's been taught to walk upright. Wally Sweat is adamant about one thing.
I absolutely disagree with anyone who says that Oliver was trained to walk upright. The chimpanzees that we've housed here walk bent over and with their knees bent. Oliver's stance when he walks is with his shoulders back and his knees locked. And there's never, ever been a chimpanzee trained to walk that has been able to keep that pose.
The day they moved to their new home from the research lab, Oliver and his companions made a little bit of history.
The significance of this enclosure is great. This effort represents the first time that chimpanzees were ever retired to a sanctuary from a laboratory. I'm quite excited that these chimps that lived in a basement in 5-foot cages now can live in groups and experience the outdoors and be in the Texas sun and actually experience some quality of life. Where's the rag? Straight on. You're so bad. You are so bad.
Wally's sanctuary is a kind of retirement home for some 1,000 animals.
What we're going to be doing here is introduce these 2 young chimps, both born at laboratories, with the ideal opportunity never to be used in medical research. And I'm going to introduce them now that they're used to being outside in the weather and used to each other to an area that's more naturalistic, larger, and with other chimpanzees. I certainly don't want to sedate these young animals to move them, so we're going to see how it goes. Come on, Miss Jewel. Come on, sweet girl. All right. Here we go. I'll go for a walk. Don't be scared. Here we go. Grass. I like this. Ready? There you go.
Against all the odds, Oliver has survived to the grand old age of 42. He's lost his eyesight now, and because of arthritis, he no longer walks upright. But still, the mystery remains. For more than 3 decades, he's been the centre of speculation and rumour. Is he half human? Or could he be a new species, as yet unknown?